Yeah, so you can keep with me if you want to, or you can head out after your 2 segments. Either way, it's no big deal for me.
All right.
All right, cool. So we're gonna go live on Facebook here in the next 3 seconds, just so you know. And then it'll be 3 minutes from there is when we actually start the show. So technically right now we are live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter via Periscope. Let's see here. Click over there for that. It's more for you than for them because they know. This is kind of, like I said, this is behind the scenes. We're just going through everything while I do the prep work here, making sure everything's running for our sound errors and all that jazz.
Awesome. Appreciate you keeping me in the loop.
Yeah, not a problem at all. That's kind of what we do here. I don't want you to get lost or feel like you've gotten something you've gotten stolen from you. So there we go. All right, cool. Everything is set. Hey, people on Facebook. Let me see what we got going on. We got Nicole in one group. We got Erica in another. You guys really should just join the same Facebook feed. It makes it a lot easier because you guys really play off of each other. If you don't know, let's see, transition this. There you go, Julian. Julian, if you don't know, the people that we have on our feeds and the people that conversate back and forth, they have a lot of conversation while this is going on. So during the commercial break is when, we really, we go through when we converse and I point out some jokes or something like that when they haven't, unless we're having a really good conversation, and then we just keep on going.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Let's see here what's going on. Bum, bum. See. Nicole, Erica is actually in the Mojo room right now. She is in the Mojo room. Wow, that sounds really bad. I need to.
What is the Mojo room?
Well, so we have. We're hosted by a radio company called Mojo 50. Doc Thompson, the cartel, the conservative cartel, they started Mojo 50 Radio. We also play on their, not only on their radio set, but on their Facebook feed. So
cool.
So the Mojo room is for those people.
Aha.
Let me see here. Okay. Okay, we got about 30 seconds before we go live, guys, just to keep you informed. See y'all. Bum, bum, bum. Kick that going. Let's see, and transition that over. All right. So easy for you to do, but I'm going to go to radio silent for the next about 15 seconds, all right?
All right.
Hello, everybody. You're listening to the Defenders of American Exceptionalism. We are live. You can find us on pretty much every social media, but specifically you can find us on Facebook and Twitter, /DOAE Show, /DOAE Show on those. You can also find the video feed on Facebook.com/DOAE Show, YouTube at the DOAE Show, and you can also find us on the Facebook feeds for Mojo 50 Radio, where we are live as well as on their radio stream. With us tonight, we have Julian. You're going to have to say your last name for me.
Adorney.
Adorney. I didn't want to say it. It was like, is it like attorney, but it's just a D? What are we doing here? Okay.
Common issue, yeah.
Yeah, common issue, and I didn't want to screw it up. We have Julian Adorney with us. He's written a couple of pretty awesome articles one for, what is that, FEE, which is the Foundation for Economic Education, as well as the American Conservative. So you guys can find his articles in our links. Just go to the drop down on the See More page. You can also you can look at our stuff there, and his information is there as well. How you doing tonight, Julian?
I'm great. Thanks so much for having me, Stephen.
Awesome stuff. Let's see. So everybody knows the whole idea with driverless cars and all that. You have a different perspective on it, and it seems pretty good. Just the headline of your story: how driverless cars will help Americans escape police oppression. Go for it.
All right. So the basic idea is that most people don't realize this, but we forfeit most of our Fourth Amendment rights the minute we get onto the road, the minute we get into a car. And the reason for that is that cops have very broad leeway to pull you over for, turning without using your blinker, or for speeding or missing a stop sign, even for things that the cops believe are against the law but actually aren't. I had a friend whose wife was pulled over for having a Christmas tree ornament hanging off her rearview mirror, which is extremely legal. Those things sell millions, but the cop thought it was illegal, so pulled her over.
Wow.
And then, yeah, it was crazy. And then from there, what happens is police can't automatically search your car. They cannot automatically search your car just by pulling you over. But what they are trained to do is use a variety of tactics, leaning pretty heavily on the fact that most people aren't going to say no to a cop, to try and push you to consent to a search, asking, do you mind if I look around a little bit? Seemingly innocuous questions that if you say yes, as most people do, you allow them to search your vehicle. So what you essentially have is a system where cops have a ton of leeway to pull over pretty much anyone on the road, because we all mess up traffic laws. We all turn without signaling. We all, speed a couple miles over. We all probably commit 2 or 3 infractions per day, even the best drivers. And so cops have this broad latitude to pull everyone over and then kind of pressure us into letting them search our cars.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I got you there.
Yeah. And then, so where driverless cars help is that they eliminate these pretexts, because driverless cars are not going to run a stop sign. They're not going to turn without signaling. They're not going to go over the speed limit. So cops don't necessarily have an excuse or pretext to pull you over and then press you into letting them search your car.
Okay. Well, so what about something like this? Take this for example. Let's say I had, at the time, which at 16 years old, if I had a self-driving car, that would have been amazing. But let's say 16 years old, I had a self-driving car. Just so happened that one of the brake lights was out. Cop decides to pull us over because the brake light's out. Cop then says, you're 16 years old. You have a couple friends in the back. You fit the profile of somebody who might be pushing drugs in this area. We're going to have to search your car. Is that what you're kind of talking about here?
Exactly, yeah. Although with a self-driving car, you may still have the brake light go on, so the cops have an option to pull you over there. But you can drastically cut down on the options they have to pull you over, because you won't be driving over the speed limit. You won't be, running stop signs. You won't be doing all the other things that 16-year-olds do on a routine basis.
Right. It'll be more of a everything's GPS located, everything's automated for a certain set. All the roads are mapped out and already programmed into the computer. So when there's a stop sign, and it stops, and the cars in front of us, they're all automatically programmed for the same thing. So it doesn't matter what happens, unless a deer runs out into the middle of the road. Even then, they have all the new technology to sense things that happen around a car, stops that from happening, stops 90% of the accidents. Wasn't that one of your stats? What was it? That not only could it reduce other things, but it could reduce driverless cars could reduce traffic deaths by 90%.
Exactly, yeah. And that's from a fairly recent study. And the reason for that is that humans make a lot of mistakes when we're driving. And because there's an old joke, that no matter whether you're black, you're white, you're Mexican, whether you're a man or a woman, whether you're rich, you're poor, we all have one thing in common. We all think we're better than average drivers. but we're not. Most of us suck at driving.
Most of us do. Yes.
Yeah. Not you and not me, of course, but other people.
Of course. Not at all.
Yeah.
No.
And so self-driving cars are not going to text on the road. They're not going to, do 3 shots and then drive to a party. They're not going to, swerve 3 lanes, try and catch their exit while, chugging a big gulp with one hand and trying to steer with their knees because they've got Big Mac in the other hand.
Oh,
So
never.
self-driving
What are you
cars,
talking about?
yeah.
That never happens.
Self-driving cars can really reduce the amount of human error, and that's the cause of a lot of crashes.
Okay. And so what would you say to the newest studies that have been out that also point out and project that self-driving cars are going to lead to things like more sex in cars?
I think that's an unexpected bonus.
That's for you, Erica, because you still want to drive your car, but you're listening. So there you are. Anyway. All right. So we have the safety issues. We have the bonuses. Anyway, what are some drawbacks to having self-driving cars? What are the things that are actually going through with that?
Well, I think there are 2 big drawbacks. One is that self-driving cars are very expensive right now, and this is a temporary drawback because if you look at the price of technology keeps getting cheaper and cheaper and cheaper every year, while the quality goes up and up and up. The phone that I have on my desk is better than any phone Steve Jobs or Bill Gates could have afforded.
Yes, at the time.
And it was a lot cheaper too. So I think that the fact that self-driving cars right now run 6 figures, that's a big drawback. But give it 5 years, they'll be down to the price of a Ford Impala.
Well, it's only a drawback for those who want to invest early, which is always the common thing. So what happens with every technology and every emergent technology, unless it gets quashed by certain other companies or governments, is that the rich folks buy the first versions, and then with the money that they use to buy those versions, the companies then learn how to adapt, how to make things less expensive. And over the course of 5-10 years, you find something that it's like a big screen TV, an LCD TV. I got, a 55-inch 4K Ultra HD for a couple $100, whereas, heck, even just a flat screen TV 5 years ago, 10 years ago was going to cost you over $1,000.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I mean, so what we're looking at is, yes, it's incredibly expensive. And yes, I would love the fact that, my car could drive itself as long as it also has a manual mode. And by manual, I don't mean, shifting, because, most people don't know how to do that anymore. But what I do mean is an actual manual driving mode, take it out of autopilot, if you will.
That's one thing that I think a lot of people worry about. And there's sort of this idea that if things go wrong, if there's rain or there's weather or there's, someone swerves in front of them, they want to be the one in control. And I think that's a reasonable fear. And I think that car companies will benefit if they allow that manual mode, because it does give consumers an option to keep doing that.
Yeah, if you give us the option to keep driving, it'll make us. It's walking us in to a possibility. If you give us the cool stuff, but you can still do the other stuff. It's okay, but you give us the cool stuff with it. It makes it more accessible to everybody. It makes it it makes it less of a, oh, that's just for those rich people that don't do anything, don't want to drive their cars anymore. No, it's also for some of the regular people, or just the people that have enough money to do it, that like driving, that like that feel of control, that like that to get out and go. But I mean, what are some of the benefits? Well, one, you can eat your Big Mac, right? And drink your soda at the same time.
Yep.
One in each hand. You never have to worry about it, right? You could read a book on the way. Technically, you could sleep in a little more on the way, right?
Yep.
Technically, you could get your little visor blinders and just lay back in the chair, put some good music on, and pass out. So there are a lot of things that you can do. You could have. You could actually start your day, your business day, a lot sooner if you're in that world, wouldn't you?
Exactly. Yeah, and that's one of the areas where I think we'll see big productivity gains.
I think so too, and
Yeah.
that'll definitely be a big benefit.
Yeah.
Julian,
Yeah.
hold on, stick with me.
All right.
This is a music that you hear is a commercial break. Hold on one second.
Ah, gotcha.
Yay, commercial break is on.
All right. I was wondering, I was like, should I keep talking over? Like, did someone hit the sound button or what?
No. So here's the thing. With the commercial breaks, no matter what happens, on the radio side, their commercials just start, and it doesn't matter. So boom, it starts. They're not going to hear us talking for the next 3 minutes. The 3 minutes that we have right now, the only people that hear us are the people that are going to listen to the podcast later, and those that are going to that are actually watching us live.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah, so it's kind of a little benefit for those around. It's good times.
Yeah.
Good times for all, right? Let me see here. Oh, thank you for the happy birthday, guys. Thanks. That's very nice. Let me see here. I will take my chances with driving a car and getting a ticket. I know, Jules. I feel you. But if it was cheap, and if you had to do it, just saying. Let me see. Got that. Erica quoted your reasonable fear as perfect, so that's good. Let's see here. Or you could just drive because it's fun. I know, yes, we could just drive because it's fun. But
See,
like we just got to. Go right ahead.
the way I think of it is driving can be fun, but after the fifth time that your girlfriend or your boyfriend says, "Hey, we can make out in the back seat if we put this thing on autopilot," maybe you'll find something more fun than driving.
Yeah, like playing Uno or checkers or,
Yeah.
Hey, you want to do something fun in the back? That's terrible. Terrible bad times. No good. Very bad things. Let me see. Had to wait for the break so I didn't shake your mojo. Happy birthday, Mr. Cool Dude radio voice. Oh, thanks. Thanks, Nicole.
Was it your birthday today?
Yeah, it is.
All right. Well, happy birthday.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. See. And don't worry, Nicole. You won't shake my voice. That's my radio voice. Oh, man. You guys are amazing. Let me see here. I'm sorry that you can't see everything on there, but you just watch it scroll, and you can respond to anything that you want. Please don't be shy.
All right.
Hold on one second. And we're back. You're listening to the Defenders of American Exceptionalism. We have Julian with us. Julian Adorney. Adorney?
Mm-hmm.
Adorney.
Yep.
Yeah, I gotcha. I said it right. Yes. We're playing it a little fast and loose here. Sorry. So, you're not just a tech guy.
Nope.
You also like to go into, education and how we're doing and what we're doing. And apparently you've also read a couple of good books.
Absolutely.
Unlike many of the young age as ours would do. So let's talk about this. The mad rush to college is killing our children's entrepreneurial spirit. Come at me.
All right. So the basic point is that I hate to be one of those old folks, waving my fist like, get off my lawn, kids. There's something wrong with this generation. But so I want to stress this isn't, kids' fault. But the way we've structured our society is that there is this mad rush to college, and it's sort of consuming children's lives. You have to get a 4.0 in middle school so that you have to get an A in biology so that you can go on to advanced AP biology in high school and then ace that test and then go into Stanford. You have to spend all your free time on piano recitals or playing after school football or doing other extracurriculars so you can build up a fantastic resume to get into Wesleyan or Yale or wherever. And
Mm-hmm.
so it creates this kind of resume arms rush for children. And there are a lot of dangers there, but one of the big ones is it crowds out childhood, because you don't really have time. If your day is originally structured where you go to school and then you do homework and then you do, piano recitals and then you do after school hockey and then you do more homework and then you do SAT prep, you don't really have time to be a kid. You don't have time to, go skateboarding with your friends or climb trees or things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And those are really important because they're self-guided behaviors. You don't have an adult looking over your shoulder saying, "Hey, reach for that branch." You're just doing it on your own. And developing that self-confidence, the ability to navigate the world without adult supervision,
Mm-hmm.
is really critical if you want to become an entrepreneur.
Oh, it really is. Being able to do things on your own, making sure that you are willing to take a step out and to reach for something that you know may or may not be there. Um, that sort of thing is being lost in a generation where they're so structured, and their life is so centered around
Yeah.
sit down, and read, sit down and do this, sit down and learn this, instead of just allowing what would be called free play.
Mhm.
I mean, the fact that you have a curriculum for kindergarten that's more than learn your alphabet and count to 20 and stuff like that,
Yeah.
and then just a whole bunch of play. That, I mean, so just a thought. They have my daughter learning Spanish. She is 4 years old, in pre-K, in a public school. They have her learning Spanish, the basics, and they have her learn, but it's all intermittent with play.
Mhm.
It's, play for 30, 40 minutes. Then we're going to learn something. Play. Then we'll learn a little thing. Then we'll sing a song, and it'll be a happy dance. That sort of thing.
Yeah.
And after about second grade, you lose it. That seems to be the case. After about second grade, it's, you have 5 different classes, and you have to go between to get yourself ready to go into different classes for each year, and you're going to have to sit down and you're going to have to study this, and you may have 20 or 30 minutes of going outside and playing,
Mhm.
but it's going to be very structured and very utilitarian. And it has so much to do with SAT prep and so much to do with, learning and studying and going to college. But what is the percentage of kids that actually go to college, that graduate high school?
I don't actually know that offhand.
Well, I can tell you from my generation, from our generation, I don't know. How old are
Yeah.
you?
27.
Okay, see, I'm 32 now. So I'm just a few years above yours. But from the people that graduated with my class,
Mhm.
it was roughly about 60%
That
actually
sounds,
went to college.
yeah.
It's not that bad. It's good. But at the same point in time, that 60%, you have 40% that spent all of that time doing something they would never touch again.
Exactly. Yeah. And you find too that for a lot of people, college isn't the right solution. Speaking personally, I spent 5 years as an English major and advertising major, and it was fun. I made some good friends.
Mm-hmm.
I wrote some papers that I enjoyed. But the one internship where I ran a startup my senior year, that did more for my career growth than all 5 years of just sitting there taking notes, writing essays. So
Exactly.
it's not valuable for everyone.
No, it really isn't. I actually did the graduate early and then work. Go to work. That's what I did. I was never one to go to college, and I knew it. I knew it from the start, and I knew it from the get-go. Yeah, I could go to, I could take a class or two, or I could learn something if they were teaching something specific, or I could go to a technical school. But I learned very early on in school that college was not the place for where I needed to be.
Mm-hmm.
And to have all of that time prepping and setting up, even in our generation, which, by the way, the difference between ours and the iGen is crazy.
Absolutely.
I mean, just to think, what were they expecting us to know in first and second and third grade, and then now to what they're trying to achieve with these kids, pushing on them all of these scholastic deals and everything else that's going on, trying to make sure that they have a curriculum for their entire life spanned out in front of them, so that they know where they're going to go. Oh, you're going to be in AP English and calculus by 8th grade and all this other mess. It seems rather silly to me.
It does, and it's weird because we're trying to have higher standards for children. We're trying to push them harder, make them more successful, but oftentimes we're doing the opposite. We all hear horror stories about 25-year-olds whose parents show up with them to their job interviews and say, "I want to make sure you're treating little Johnny fairly."
Mm-hmm.
And we laugh at those young people, but what do we expect? They've never been outside of adult supervision in their entire formative years, their entire childhood, their teenage years. They've always had parents or teachers hovering around them, telling them what to do.
Mm-hmm.
Should we be surprised they aren't capable of going to a job interview on their own? Not we, but like the previous generation of parents created this phenomenon.
Yeah, and I won't say my parents, because my parents definitely didn't. They were like, go play, go do, go get out of the house, that sort of thing. So my parents were rather old school in that sort of thing, and I look back on it now and I really appreciate it. But at the same point in time, I have 4 kids. I have an 8-year-old, and I can pretty much, other than, going in our backyard and, unsupervised, going in our backyard sort of thing, even though I know, without a shadow of a doubt, I know it is safer on the streets today than it was when I was their age. Mm-hmm. I can't do it. And I don't know what is going on.
Well, there's a difference between the stats that we see in terms of rising safety, because you're right, the U.S. is the safest, much safer now for children than it was in the 1950s when parents were fine letting their kids run all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
But then we turn the TV every night and we see stories of murder, stories of theft, stories of armed robbery, and as humans, we're not great at psychologically at recognizing that those are very small pieces of the puzzle. Instead, we suffer hard from, it's not confirmation bias, but something similar.
Right.
Yeah.
Confirmation bias almost, except for not quite. Yeah. I think we might have to dig a little bit deeper into this. Hold on 1 second. We'll be right back.
All right.
Yay, another commercial break. No, my daughter's name is not Dora. Come on. Dora the Explorer. Jeez. She doesn't have a monkey or any of that. Don't give me that mess. Oh, goodness. Apparently everybody was so entranced with their conversation that they didn't actually talk that much. So that's pretty cool.
Awesome.
Hey, look at that. You're making some conversation on your own. Here. But yeah, so, yeah, it's not confirmation bias.
Yeah.
But it's just the constant barrage of negativity, of negative press, of things happening to people, of all of these stories that are one-offs. And pretty bad one-offs, but one-offs. I mean, to give an example, what is the school shootings?
Yeah.
There were massively more there was a massive surge of school shootings when my parents were growing up versus now.
Mhm.
It's just we hear about every situation this time, and normally the school shootings back in their age was more like one kid shot another kid,
Yeah.
not one kid came in and shot 15 people,
Mhm.
or not a terrorist cell out in the middle of Nevada or out in the middle of the New Mexico desert training children so that they can fire and shoot up schools. We don't hear
Yeah.
about that. Like, that's not what they did back then. It was, by the way, did you hear about that story, right?
I did. Yeah, that was crazy.
It makes sense. But at the same
Mhm.
point in time, I'm really glad they caught them.
Yeah, definitely.
It bothers me so much because it's such a contradiction.
Mhm.
Because I know the facts. I can't spit them out all the time, but I know the facts and I know the percentages of differences in the generations and how everything is going, and yet still, to this day, I can't other than going to let my kids go into the backyard.
Yeah.
I can't do it, and it doesn't make sense.
It's a tough conundrum. It's a tough contradiction, because we do the minute you see a negative story, it can be broadcast all over the place. It can happen in Baltimore, but you're going to see it in California. And
Mm-hmm.
especially with school shootings, you find children who talk about how they're terrified every day of walking in and seeing a gunman. And that makes some sense.
And we're back. And if you heard that conversation coming up on the Sound of Music there, that was because I didn't keep track of time. I was just talking and he was talking back. Anyway, finish your thought.
All right, so we have children who are feeling very scared and very traumatized at the idea of a school shooting. They walk in every day and say they're scared of seeing a gunman.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's our fault as society because school shootings are vanishingly small. They're very horrific, and we should absolutely be trying to minimize them. But they're also a tiny, tiny risk. But we've sort of blown them out of proportion with daily shooter drills and convincing kids that they're constantly at risk of this thing. When again, as horrifying as school shootings are, and as much as we should really try and minimize them, kids are at much more risk of dying in a car crash.
For sure. It's like back in the day when they did the drills for atomic bomb drops,
Yeah.
and all the kids had to get under the desk and hide under the desk. That wouldn't have done anything for you, man. You would have just been a burnt crisp under a desk, and that would have been the end of you. So I'm sorry to tell you, your drill was for naught. And it's the same thing here. Your drill is for naught. I mean, when you have kids that need their parents to go to interviews with them, or you have kids in college saying that they have PTSD because of an election,
I saw that. Yeah.
There's something very wrong with this generation that is currently about to become adults. And it makes me so sad. Although there's a good point. iGen seems to be, they're about to be in their rebellion phase, like the good bout of iGen, and a lot of the iGen rebellion is actually moving toward a libertarian conservative bend. So that's really good.
That is very hopeful. Yeah.
It's like they see the stupidity in it. It's like, this is idiot. What is this? So much idiocy.
Yeah.
I'm done. You guys are morons. But let me ask you this.
Mm-hmm.
A woman spends multiple months in jail after a lab finds meth in her car, but it was actually just cotton candy.
That is troubling for a lot of reasons.
Yes. You see, this happened in New Year's Eve, 2016. she was pulled over for her tinted windows, and the officers involved knew that they were actually legally tinted. Like, it wasn't past the tent portion. They knew it was legally tinted, but they pulled her over anyway. And when they got through, they noticed that there was an open plastic bag in her car, and there was a blue substance in the car, in the open plastic bag. And apparently, they must have been watching Breaking Bad at the time, because there was a big thing about blue meth on Breaking Bad, which is fake. It's false, by the way. It's false. Meth is not blue, or it will never become blue unless you dye it. So that's neither here nor there. But anyway, she was arrested, and she was put in jail for meth because their field tester came up with a positive on meth from her cotton candy.
Yeah, this really highlights the dangers, apart from anything else, the dangers with field testing. Similar to drug sniffing dogs, field tests are not reliable. They will turn up. They will show positive for drugs like marijuana, or positive in this case for meth, for almost anything. They're essentially a tool that cops can use to arrest you because they think, oh, well, that this might be drugs. Let's just cast as broad a net as possible. Yeah.
Yeah. Not only did they arrest her, but they actually put her in jail for months on end. You see, that was New Year's when that happened. She was let go in March of 2017. After the actual lab did a test and realized that it was not an illegal substance, it was just sugar with some food dye. Apparently, this specific testing machine does a false positive result with blue food dye.
That is deeply troubling, and this happens a lot in the criminal justice system.
Yes.
You have DNA tests that for years were touted by prosecutors as the gold standard of evidence. Most of them are wrong. You have drug sniffing dogs that are,
cued.
Yeah, their cops will train them. Throw a tennis ball behind their back or something. The dog will start barking. And so we have in our society this apparatus where we tend to trust these supposedly non-biased entities, be they DNA tests, drug sniffing dogs, or drug tests themselves, that are really very biased and really very untrustworthy.
Oh yeah, extremely untrustworthy. And to that effect, this lady has gotten herself a good lawyer. She's suing Monroe County, Georgia, who the deputies, that's where they were from. She's also suing the company that makes the field tester because it came up with a false positive test on something as simple as sugar. And I think she's suing one other entity, and I can't remember where. I couldn't find the rest of it from where it is. But anyway, so she's doing a huge setup, suing pretty much everybody involved, which is going to cost the taxpayers quite a bit of money for a screw-up of a couple of police officers.
Yeah, and that's one of the tragedies that we see when people sue the government. Is there are two big problems. One is that the government is very hard to successfully sue, much harder than a private company. And the second problem is that when you sue the government successfully, make them pay damages, it's coming out of your pocket. It's not, these two officers aren't going to pay out of their pockets. It's not going to be the police department that pays. It'll be taxpayers.
Oh yes, of course. It'll definitely be taxpayers, and they'll be even if if she lives there, she's technically going to be paying her own bill, which is really funny to me.
Yeah.
But there's always a downfall to suing the government. Like you said, it's hard to do. Their lawyers are much better than anyone that you can afford. And along with that, any money that you do get is just hurting everybody else. It's not hurting it's not hurting a major company. It's not hurting another thing. It's hurting your fellow man because you're making their taxes go up to pay for your bill. But adding on to that she's suing the company that makes the tester. Maybe she's just doing the county because of the fact that she was in jail. Maybe she's just trying to sue for her time back for that. And then she's going to get her big bucks from the company.
Hopefully, yeah. I mean, the company is liable here as well. You know, they have a moral obligation to make sure their products are not turning up false positives in something that's as high stakes as criminal justice.
Whoa. You're bringing up morals in this? No, sir. They're business. A business isn't a person. A business is just a business. This is capitalism. There's no morals in capitalism unless you actually read, moral sentiments. But there's no morals in capitalism.
There's actually a good amount of data that capitalism creates a more moral society than socialism. And part of the reason is that in capitalism, if I want to get rich, I have to serve a lot of people. I do marketing, so I have to serve my clients. I have to serve my boss. I have to serve my company. I have to make all of their lives better. And once you realize in capitalism that the best way to get rich is by serving other people, it sort of creates a higher level of morality than you see in socialist societies.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's the entire point. That's why when you hear about the invisible hand of the market and everything else, and you hear about so it's not a capitalism without morality, without a moral standard. Capitalism turns very quickly into cronyism. Turns very quickly into Amazon, which we all enjoy. But I mean, come on, you just you just got two different states to pay, multi-billion dollars to get you into their state. Come on, that's a bit of cronyism.
Absolutely.
That's highly immoral and a hugely immoral action. But hopefully, what happens with this is the best result. One, these people decide that they don't want this sort of problem to happen again, so they're not just going to pull somebody over for some erroneous charge, like, hey, your tent is a little too dark, even when it's not, and because your tent is too dark, we're going to search your car because you got a plastic bag with some blue stuff in it. Hopefully they learn. Hopefully the company learns, and if the company learns, then they'll make the tester better. Just like hopefully when they train dogs, they don't train them to just go on command to do to bark or to do something else, but they go on command to actually find drugs. But
that is the hope.
Yeah. But then again, if you give a dog a cookie every time he barks, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, if you give a dog a cookie when he barks, he's gonna bark a lot. And pretty much on cue. Show him the cookie, he will bark. Let me see here. Yeah, actually, this story here is pretty much summed up. Set her bond at $1 million when they actually arrest her. That just doesn't make sense to me. Like, why would you do that? I don't get it. It doesn't. This stories like this don't make sense. Why would a police officer do that? Why would they arrest her and not actually test it on something other than their field equipment that they know can be faulty?
Yeah.
Why would they pull her over for tent on New Year's?
Yeah, there are. One of the frustrating things, I actually personally know some cops who I really respect and really admire. So I don't want to go lambasting all cops, but the problem is that just like in any field, just like in my field of marketing, you have scummy people who are in there. And in most capitalist enterprises...
Oh, no.
Okay. In most capitalist enterprises, you want to fire the scummy people because they're really bad for your business. But when you have government sector unions, they make it really hard to fire bad cops. It could just be a case of two cops who are, you know, don't really care about civil liberties and just want, some kind of charge to meet a quote or whatever.
Yeah.
The problem is they'll never be fired.
Oh no, they'll never be fired, and they get a very nice pension to boot.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. Like, hey, their firing isn't actually firing. It's, hey, dude, you got to go to a desk.
Yeah.
Because we can't, you just can't go out anymore. So you just go on a desk and file the paperwork, and maybe in 2 years you can go back out again because you screwed up pretty bad. Bad you. It's like the president in Saudi Arabia. Bad you. It's a good zing, man. It's a good zing. Let's see here. What we got here? Jules. When one can't sue the government, it creates a less moral government. Go figure.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's true. It's true. I saw a major lawsuit, and then I actually told you about the lawsuit, so that's good to go. Cops need to go back to taste test. See,
that might be a little dangerous for meth.
But there's a problem with taste test, okay? Because everything's getting cut with fentanyl now.
Mm-hmm.
And fentanyl is so strong, it is so harsh, that even a small dab will mess you up. You could actually die if you haven't been exposed to it before. You can die from it on first exposure if it's laced in something.
Yeah, taste test is. I think that's fine for alcohol. Doesn't really work as well for hard drugs. Cops. One of the hazards of their job shouldn't be, let me try a dab of heroin.
Right.
Let me see if this is actually meth. If my teeth fall out, then we know this person's a real dealer.
Right. But that'll take 6 months. But still.
Yeah.
Not quite the same. Just not quite the same. It doesn't quite work. It's, I'm just gonna tap my finger and dab it in. Now that was the 70s and stuff like that, but no, it's a bad idea. It's a bad idea. The reason why they came out with these testers was to make sure that somebody doesn't have to do that. They don't have to expose themselves to this mess. But I wish the case was that, these guys that sell these machines actually knew for a fact that these machines wouldn't give faulty bands or anything like that. But
yeah,
it's pretty astounding that everything that they do seems to just turn to crap after a while when you sell things to the government.
It does, yeah.
Welcome back, all you radio people. This is the Defenders of American Exceptionalism. By the way, you can find us at doaeshow.com, doaeshow.com for all the latest. We have articles posted weekly now. That's nice. It's nice. I'm hoping to get daily, but weekly now. And you can find all the new contributors and authors there. You can also find our shop if you go to doaeshow.com/shop. You can find wonderful mugs such as this, shirts such as the one I'm wearing, and many, many other things, even yoga pants, ladies. Sorry. Just go to our website, doaeshow.com, and when you're there, be a friend. Sign up for at least becoming a shield bearer with us. Just give us your email address, be a shield bearer. It helps us in the long run, and it'll help you too. As we grow, you'll be able to get information about everything that's going on first and foremost. We'll let it be there. Anyway, Julian, you're stick around with us. You stuck around, man. Look at you. Champion right there. Okay. United States judge has strucken down the Mississippi law that bans abortion after 15 weeks.
This is troubling.
Say no more. No.
Yeah.
So, federal judge in Mississippi has permanently blocked one of the most restrictive abortion laws in the country. By the way, nowhere near as restrictive as our socialist friends over in Europe. On a ban for abortions after the 15th week of gestation. You see, the law was signed into law by Governor Phil Bryant in March, but a court quickly imposed a temporary block, which has been extended multiple times now, and the order has now been set to expire on Monday. See, the ban's lawfulness, this is a quote, hinges on a single question, whether a 15-week mark is before or after viability. This from the district court judge, Carlton Reeves. Julian, is that what it really relies on? Is that where it hinges?
I do think viability is an important consideration. And the reason that there's a fundamental divide, obviously, over abortion of when the fetus becomes viable, because if you're a pro-lifer, especially if you're a Christian pro-lifer, as many of my friends are, and as I am sort of squishily, you tend to believe that life begins at conception, and that's when viability happens. And so in that case, any abortion, 15 weeks is far too long, honestly.
Well, see, and I understand where you're coming from with that.
Yeah.
You say squishily.
Yeah.
I gotcha. But any arbitrary line that you place, any arbitrary line that we place, can also be applied to somebody who has already been born. So what makes it viable at 15 weeks or at 20 weeks? Oh, that's the brain activity, or that's the heartbeats, or that's the lungs acting right, or that's the fact that it could live outside of the womb. Okay, sort of. But if it's the brain activity, then why do we have people in vegetative states in comas for 25 years on a breathing machine?
Mm-hmm.
Sorry. If this one doesn't work, the adult doesn't work either. Well, they're adults. They're alive. Not by your standard. No, they're not.
Well, I think to push back a little bit on that, the difference in that case is that the adult is not physically being cared for every day, and is not living inside a woman's body.
They are being physically cared for every day if they have one of those things missing. Let's say their lungs aren't working properly. They have to have a machine for their lungs. Let's say their brain activity isn't working anymore. They're technically dead, but they have a iron lung, going through pumping their blood. They're actually being more of a drain on not only society, but everybody involved. More than just one person, more than just one life it is being drained and decided upon when you have somebody that's doing that. So if you go by that standard that, they don't have, their lungs aren't fully capable, or their brain activity isn't quite right, you then put that same notion on somebody that's outside of the womb. 6 inches is all we're talking about here.
Yeah.
6 inches, and the fact that one is inside of a woman and one is outside of a woman. I'm sorry, but when you decided to have sex, that was your decision to possibly carry a child. If you don't understand the correlation and the connection there, then maybe you shouldn't have had sex in the first place. We just talked about schooling and education and everything else. If you don't understand it, maybe the correlation doesn't go there. But, in how I see it, if it doesn't start at conception, if life doesn't start at conception, then every benchmark you set after that, if you follow it to the logical end, should be applied to adults.
That's interesting. And that's one thing that Peter Singer, he's a well-known utilitarian over at Princeton. He's extremely pro-choice.
Yes.
And he talks about something similar where he argues that infanticide should be legal because the baby can't live on his or her own any more than the fetus can.
Right.
and I said I'm squishily pro-life because I'm not honestly sure when life begins, but if you don't believe it begins at conception, then there is a very slippery slope there, and there's not a ton of difference between an 8-month fetus,
Sorry,
which
that's to the slippery slope reference, and
yeah,
so
but there's not a ton of difference between an 8-month fetus and a newborn, and there are people on the pro-choice side, not a majority, I think, but there are fairly vocal people on the pro-choice side who do believe in 8-9 month abortions.
Oh yeah. Actually, I would say that most of them do believe that it's okay up until the point of birth, or a larger percentage than they give credit to.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people out there that do things politically thinking, oh, no, 20 weeks is all we ever want. I mean, come on. I mean, it's not like we're monsters, when in reality it's, Hillary Clinton in the back scrubbing all the files and emails from her server in a toilet or something, It's the same deal. Same deal applies in many cases. If you believe it at one point, you can logically push yourself to believe it in the next. Because if it's the woman's choice, if you believe that it's the woman's choice up until that child is born, then you can't say anything otherwise without being a hypocrite. Yeah?
Yeah, and I agree. I do think most people are more middle of the road than we believe because we live in politics, right? And so we have Planned Parenthood talking on the one side, and we have the hardcore pro-life organizations on the other side, and we forget that those don't actually represent 50-50 of the American public.
Oh,
they
no,
represent,
I know
5%,
they don't.
5%.
I know that. I know they don't represent 50-50 because Planned Parenthood is way out there. I mean, heck, Margaret Sanger, the entire idea that, they need to eliminate one race over another, and how they're going to do it is by, what they're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very out there. I get you on that. That's understandable. It's just, to me, I can see where you're coming from on that. I can.
Yeah.
I can see where you're coming from on that. To me personally, though, if in your mind it's a woman's choice, that means in your mind, no matter what age that child is, what part of gestation is, it is still the woman's choice. If not, then you are hypocritical about your ideas or misunderstood.
Yeah, I think there are definitely people who do believe that. I think for most Americans, though, they see it as a balancing act where they don't believe 100% in the rights of the woman. They don't believe 100% in the rights of the fetus. They're sort of looking for this. If you think of like a calculus problem, they're looking for the optimization point. They're looking for what's the perfect balance between the viability of the fetus and the woman's right to choose.
I would say the perfect balance is very simple. Before you have sex, that is when you choose. Now, before we go, quickly, couple things. One last thing specifically. Federal judge has now put away the female genital mutilation laws, saying that they violate the Constitution. Guys, go read this story. It's over at NPR. I've got it on the list. You have to read it. It is unbearable, the reasoning that they give. Anyway, folks, you guys have a great week. Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
We'll talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.
All right.